Spoiler, we cannot avoid stress. It is all around us. So we need to learn how to deal with it because there is no way to avoid it unless you go into I guess even if you were a nomad and you went into the forest and lived where nobody is, there's still stress. Maybe different than what we have, in our city life and our urban life, but we still all have stress. So today we are going to work on understanding stress a bit more. So, our stress factors. So, number one, how does stress impact our body? Number two, how chronic stress can contribute to the development and progression of chronic diseases. And number three is some practical tips on mindfulness to help alleviate stress and bring those stress levels down. So, we are the Daily Energy Bite, and we are here to help you live the health of your dreams. Today, I'm going to start. Yesterday, we had a great question from OJ, and she asked about the how if lemongrass is a good. So we talked about the cramping on your menstrual cycle, and the fact that there is. Hey, Kathy. We're just talking about lemongrass. We had a question yesterday. We were talking about cramping and the impacts on your menstrual cycle of, the hormone imbalances and all of that. And OJ asked if lemongrass is a good food. We talked about ginger having been studied, and just an eighth of a teaspoon of ginger 3 times a day, that's powdered ginger, helps to alleviate cramping and pain, as well as reduce the blood flow. And that's been studied. So I think that one of the things that we also talked about is there aren't a lot, like they have this amount of interest to study this whole phenomena, and has been very limited. And so I think part of it is that there hasn't been any studies on lemongrass. But I did do a little bit of research yesterday so that I could respond to that OJ's question. And what I found is that lemongrass has a lot of different health benefits. It has essential oils, vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants. It is a herb. It's not something that I have a lot of familiarity with. When I go to the store, lemongrass looks pretty pathetic if I can find it. It's not, Canada is not lemongrass country. So it's not something that I grew up with and I'm not familiar with. I have had it in dishes and I have used it a few times, but it's not something, like, I don't know, like garlic. I know garlic inside and out. But anyway, so lemongrass has antioxidant properties. So we've talked about antioxidants, which can help protect cells from oxidation and reduces the risk of chronic disease. It has anti-inflammatory effects. It helps with digestive health. So similar to ginger, it can help relieve digestive discomfort. It helps with immune support. And here's the one, it can help relieve pain and muscle cramps. And so this is where, with its anti-inflammatory properties, it can be used to help with muscle spasms, pain relief, and cramps. And so that also includes menstrual cramps, headaches, and also muscle soreness. So yes, if you wanted to make yourself a nice lemongrass tea, that probably would be very helpful for you. And then I just want to continue on since we're on lemongrass. It helps promote skin health. It helps lower cholesterol. It has anti-cancer potential. So some of the compounds in lemongrass, which are citral and limonene, have potential as anti-cancer agents. And this is what they're studying in the labs right now. And it also will enhance your mood. So the lemongrass is refreshing and uplifting, and it can potentially help impact your mood and your mental well-being. So they use it for aromatherapy. And then the last one, not last but not least, it's so many benefits. It's antimicrobial, so it can actually help combat bacteria, fungi, and viruses. And so it's often used to treat infections and promote healing. So lemongrass, number one. It's a great, great option. All right. So I thank OJ for that great question. And now we are going to turn our attention to stress. Stress is everywhere. We cannot avoid it. So let's get going. Got a little slide presentation for us today. Stress. Stress is an important part of our life. And I'm not going to say stress doesn't have to be good or bad. But I think if you kind of look at the origins of stress, we had stress back, when I don't know how many millions of years ago, but at any rate, when we look at where stress comes from, so where stress is a response that we have when we encounter a threat, whether it's real or perceived. So our body activates this complex series of physiological changes to help either confront the stress or escape from the stress. So this is our fight or flight. And back, in prehistoric days, if we were being chased by a saber-tooth tiger, we have to decide whether we're running or we're fighting. So fight or flight. So that's kind of this kind of the metaphor, I guess, that we use. And so it can be crucial for our survival. And it is controlled by our autonomic nervous system. Okay, so some of the components. So when we get into a fight or flight situation, it activates our sympathetic nervous system, and it releases neurotransmitters. So these are our adrenaline and nephrephrine. So these are used for, so they're hormones that will increase our heart rate. It will increase our blood pressure and our respiratory rates. And it is preparing our body to be able to act quickly. So that then there is also the hypothalamus in the brain signals the adrenaline glands to release the stress hormones. And the one that I think most of us are familiar with is cortisol. So cortisol will increase the glucose levels in the blood, which provides us with energy to be able to respond to the stress. And so if you think about it, if you need a burst of energy to run away from a saber-toothed tiger, you are going to want energy, quick energy to do that. And also your pupils will dilate, and that is to improve your vision and your peripheral awareness. So this is, again, to add to detecting any threats that are there. We will also when this happens, you will suppress any non-essential functions. So when you are in a fight or flight mode and you're stressed, you do not need to be digesting your food. You need to be running away. So the non-essential functions would be things like digestion, your immune response, reproductive processes. So these all are suppressed because the immediate need is your survival. So there will be increased blood flow to your muscles, again, to help you and your, your heart and your brain as well. So this is to help with your physical strength, your cardiovascular function, and your cognitive alertness, so that when you're deciding whether you're going to fight or flight, you're in the know. So this is gives you real key. And then it also activates what is called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which is really allows you to respond to the stress, lead to releasing the cortisol from the adrenal glands. And then the cortisol plays a key role in regulating your metabolism, the immune function, and the body's response to stress. So all of these things are all like literally, it's amazing in a second. And I'm sure we've all been there where something has happened and you get that rush over your body that happens, and that is when this fight or flight response has been activated. So these stress hormones and what their effects are. So adrenaline and nephrephrine, they will increase your heart rate and your blood pressure. They'll dilate airways to improve your oxygen intake. They will enhance your alertness, your focus, and your physical performance, and they will mobilize energy reserves for the immediate use. So this is what they do. And then the cortisol will regulate your glucose metabolism. It will increase your blood sugar for energy, suppress inflammation and immune response, and it will modulate stress response and help to restore homeostasis after the stressor is removed. So basically, once you've removed that stress, whatever it is, the saber-tooth tiger has gone the other way, and now you get that feeling of just like almost like a weakness, I would think, when that's gone. And so that's cortisol is kind of bringing you back to your normal state. And so the thing that happens is, and we hear about this, is that long-term exposure to cortisol levels can be detrimental on your health because it contributes to hypertension, insulin resistance, immune dysfunction, and our favorite, inflammation. And this is where chronic stress becomes a problem when your cortisol levels are high. And there's a lot of, I know I went through testing this year for the first time on my cortisol levels. So I went in the morning. I think they want you to go around 8 a.m. and then again around 4 p.m. to get tested. They do blood tests to check what your cortisol levels are in your body, because this is where chronic stress becomes a problem and can lead to chronic disease. All right. So here's some of the things that physiological changes that I went over in our in our body, and like I said, it happens so quick. So here's now, we're not running after saber-tooth tigers we don't chase saber-tooth tigers, they chase us. That's not our stressors anymore. So we have a lot of stressors now that are different than that, the kind of our stressors are, some of our external stressors are going to be our work environment. It's things like a heavy workload, tight deadlines, long hours, conflicts with colleagues or your supervisor, job insecurity, and lack of control over tasks. And I'm sure if you're working, you can either relate to that or know of people that are under a lot of these pressures. And we do tend to see. I know with COVID in my job, what was happening is that there was, after COVID, kind of during COVID, nobody did anything. Nobody was moving anywhere. Everything was like we were in standstill mode. And then kind of as we were getting over COVID and things were getting back to what I'll call it the new normal, because it wasn't back to normal, but what our new normal was because of COVID. There was a lot of movement happening in the job market, and there was a lot of people leaving. And so in our department, as people were leaving, the new people are coming in with no knowledge at all. And so the people that were knowledgeable had more, I guess, stress on them, because there just wasn't enough people with knowledge. So you had to be training people as well. There was more work because there were less people doing the work. And it really caused a lot of impact, longer hours, heavier workload, and that can really cause stress. So I'm sure there's people out there that can identify with all of those kind of stresses for sure. And anytime there was, any hint that there might be layoffs or something, that puts a lot of people into a spiral, even if, and what was funny to me, because I was a supervisor, is that the people who were the most stressed out were probably the people who had the least to worry about, because they were our top performers. They were the ones who would get stressed out about layoffs. If anything happened, there's wind of anything. And there didn't even have to be wind of anything. Sometimes just silly things would happen that would, something unusual would make people think that something was up, something was happening, and it would cause all sorts of spirals. So I'm sure people can identify with that. Financial concerns, debt, there's economic instability going on right now. Interest rates are going up. So people with mortgages may be stressed out about their mortgage payments. Then there comes unemployment, all of those things for sure. Relationships, with your family, with your partner, friends, caregivers. If you're going, divorce, that's like stress beyond stress. So there's a lot of emotional stress that can come from relationship. Changes in your life, you're moving to a new location, starting a new job, getting married, having a baby, maybe a loss of a loved one. Illness also causes a lot of stress. And then there's social impacts, social pressures, harassment, environmental factors like noise, pollution, and then just things, violence, political unrest. Can contribute to stress. Now, I do have a solution for all of those things. If it's not in your immediate life, any of those things going on, you can turn off the news, and then you can take some of those stresses away, because some of those things, if they're not currently impacting you directly, turning off the news is a great way to get back some time and to relieve some of those stresses. There's internal stresses too. Oh my gosh, perfectionism, negative thinking about, worst case scenarios. Oh my gosh, this is going to happen to me. That's, the worst case scenario you hear. There might be layoffs, and all of a sudden you're thinking that you're going to be laid off. health concerns, if you're concerned about your health, if you're in chronic health problems, or just, sometimes something happens, you get an ache or a pain, and then you go online and you look in Google, and then that takes you down a rabbit hole that tells you that you're going to die today, kind of thing. That might be a bit of an exaggeration, but this is what this can happen, right? When you start looking at what the possibilities might be, and then just uncertainty and anxiety. It could be that you have stress from a trauma. You might have PTSD, and sometimes we don't even realize. I mean, we talked about this as well this week. Is sometimes we don't even realize we have these stresses. We've been kind of burying them and suppressing them, and we don't even realize the stress that we have. Anxiety and depression, and then lifestyle as well. So poor time management. Oh my gosh. That can help, because procrastination, lack of organization, prioritizing, all of those things cause those stresses that happen either at work, deadlines, and they can be in your home with your social life too, all these deadlines, and feeling like you have to do so much and you can't get it all done. And that puts stress on you. And then it could be some unhealthy habits that you might have. My unhealthy habit, I will just come right out, is sometimes, a lot of times, I should get more sleep. That can contribute to stress. And also your, just work-life balance. So that comes into it a lot. I mean, if we're working, we go to work for 8 hours a day usually. So we're spending at least a third of our life working. So these kind of things can really weigh on us. So lots of places where we have stress. It's not just the saber-tooth tiger running after us. We have a ton of saber-tooth tigers that are chasing after us. And I would say, if you let it, because it doesn't always have to be. So I just also want to state, I thought about stress, and I'm a pretty calm person. I hope that comes across in what I'm saying and how I'm coming across. But I'm a pretty calm person, and so it does take a bit to get me really stressed out. And I can tell when I'm getting stressed out. I get really like it's like I become jittery, I guess, is kind of how I feel. And so when I get like that, I know that I need to take a break and I need to do something else. And we'll talk about these something else. But for me, I will just take a break, walk away from whatever it is I'm doing. It's amazing how just 5 minutes of just taking a break, maybe doing a little meditation or deep breathing, can really help. So those are some good things to do as well. But I also want to say that stress is not always bad. So sometimes it's good. So there's acute stress, which is basically where it's short term to an immediate threat or a challenge. That can actually be good for you. And it's manageable because it goes away. There's positive stress where you have like euphoria. So maybe you're, barking on an exciting new project, or getting ready for a competition. So some of those things are good. And when I get stressed, like, I actually perform better when I'm under stress. When I have a deadline coming up, I actually perform better. And one of the other things that I used to like in my job was problems. I was the problem solver. So there can be a lot of stress around that. But that, like, I rose to the occasion on that, in those situations. And so it was good for me. So it's not always bad. But there's the whole chronic stress is really where it can become a problem because you're constantly under stress that continues to persist. And that's where we can end up with the chronic disease on that end. So I just wanted to note that stress isn't always bad. All right. So I just want to talk a little bit about the impacts of stress. I'm not going to go into this a lot. I think chronic stress. So this is the chronic stress that's there all the time. It will impact your immune system. It can add inflammation. We've talked about inflammation before. Inflammation is basically the root of chronic disease. It can impact your cardiovascular health, your metabolic system, so metabolic dysregulation. Then there's digestive disorders as well, your mental health conditions, your neurological effects. Sleep can impact your sleep because now you're thinking about all these things and you can't sleep. Or, oh, the best one is you go to sleep and you wake up at 2 a.m. and your brain is going and you cannot stop thinking. I think people do some of their best thinking in the middle of the night when they wake up at 2 a.m. One of my colleagues would always be, if we had a lot of stuff on the go and she had a big to-do list, she would wake up in the middle of the night and that to-do list was like right here in front of her. And it was like she was solving the to-do list as she went, but that is not a good thing. So there's, sleep can impact. And then you can have hormonal imbalances as well, and musculoskeletal problems, which basically you can have muscle tension, pain, stiffness. Ooh, tension headaches. That's where my stress comes out, in tension headaches. I used to get really bad tension headaches. Literally, it was like a migraine where you can't function and you're vomiting and just awful. And so that's another way. And that TMJ, where you have issues with your jaw, that can be related to chronic stress, back pain. You just never know where this stress is coming out, but it will come out somewhere. So what can we do? That's the main thing, is what can we do? So we're talking about mindfulness. So we have some mindfulness tips. So the first thing I'll say is start small. You don't have to like jump into it, but start looking at some of these things. I challenge you to find one thing that you're not doing right now that you can do to help relieve your stress. So you can focus on the present moment. And how can you do that? And this is going to be without judgment. You're not looking at anything. Breath work can help you do that. Looking at sensations in your body or the sounds. And it's bringing your body into awareness. And one of the great ways to do that is to hold your breath and try and feel your heartbeat. So if you hold your breath and try and feel your heartbeat, you will be stopping your mind. So it's about getting your mind to stop working and just concentrating on where you are today. Meditation is great for that if you can. And I know one of the things that when you first start meditating, that happens is you're so hard to shut your brain off and your mind off from thinking. So this is what we're trying to do. Mindful breathing. So again, there's lots of different techniques for breathing, but it's about focusing on how you're inhaling and you're exhaling. And I don't even know how many ways there are to do breathing exercises, but I know there's a lot. I am sure that if you went on to YouTube, you could find some great breathing exercises. I know, Kathy, you do a lot of breathing stuff as well, and get involved in like classes. with groups. Now with Zoom, it's easy to do all this stuff. You can do
it's funny because what you said is like if you've like I never thought about it, and then when I heard about it, it seemed to be everywhere. So it's almost like your brain, because you're not focused on it, your brain doesn't see it. Your
yeah.
brain doesn't internalize how many there are. But it was just the TED Talks. You know, it was everywhere. You can find information on that. The results are pretty quick. And you don't need any equipment, and you don't need to leave where you are. You just do it where you are. So it's perfect.
You can do it on the, if you're on the subway or on your way into work, and maybe it's a stressful day, you can start, or at the end of the day, you know, well, a lot of people, when I was traveling to and from work, were sleeping on the train at the end of both ways, to work and on the way home. And so nobody's going to even notice you if you close your eyes and do some mindful breathing or a little bit of meditation. They're just going to think you're sleeping like everybody else. Oh, they aren't even going to see you because they're sleeping already.
And if you wear a mask, if you're on public
Yeah.
transportation or an airplane and you wear a mask, no one can even see your face.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, you can do it. You're right. You can do it everywhere. And that whole idea of seeing things is we have this thing called our reticular activating system. And we take in so much stimulus every day that we can't possibly process it all. And our reticular activating system is working for us to tell us what's important. So once you start thinking about breathing exercises, when it sees anything on breathing exercises, it's bringing it to your conscious, up to the front of your subconscious and your conscious mind, so that you actually pay attention to it. So yeah, it's like if you decide you're going to buy a car, and you whatever brand or whatever model you focus on, maybe you're going to buy a Tesla. All of a sudden you see Teslas all over the road, and that's all you see is Teslas, because you're focused on it. So it's very interesting. Our body is an incredible machine. All right, let's get this done. Mindful eating. Be grateful for what you're eating. Take your time. Chew your food well. Sit down and your take time to eat. My family, when I grew up, we always ate at the dinner table. It was just the way that we did it, and getting to watch TV and have dinner in front of the TV was like a Friday night treat that we got once in a blue moon. We ate at the dinner table, and I think that art of sitting and eating at the table and talking with your family has really gone. We had such busy lives. I think my kids ate more meals on the way to their dance classes in the van than anywhere else. If I went back and I counted, how many times we actually sat down. Now sitting and eating at the table is like a special occasion thing. And I don't think we're alone. So mindful eating, mindfulness and movement. So practices like yoga, tai chi, qigong are all great ways to get some flexibility, relaxation, and body awareness. Walking, go out on a walk and just kind of just take in the scene and be very mindful about what you're doing and where you're going. Doing guided meditation. So you can go online and find lots of breathing exercises and lots of guided meditations. You can just say guided meditation and how long you want to do. Start with 5 minutes. It'll be gone like nothing. You can also just do a pause for a few minutes, and then you could do some deep breaths. Gratitude practice. We did a lot of work on gratitude. It's really good. I have a gratitude journal, and every day I put in 10 things that I'm grateful for. It doesn't have to be big things. It doesn't have to be monumental. It just has to be something like, I am grateful to be here. I am grateful that my kitties, I don't know, ate their meal yesterday, or I had food for my cats yesterday. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be something big or small, but just the fact that you have gratitude will increase your frequency. It'll increase how you that those positive feelings that you have. You can explore mindfulness apps. There's tons of them out there. I am sure I wouldn't even know. I'm sure if you went into your app store and just put mindfulness in, you'd get a ton of things coming up. Or you can Google and find something that works for you. And that's the thing, is find one thing that will work for you, that you can do consistently, and have patience, because when you start, it's a skill that you're going to develop over time. You'll build the muscle. It's like going to the gym. You don't go one session and turn into like a bodybuilder. You need to continually go. And even though you may not see any results, you are getting results. And over time, when you look back, you will say, wow, I can't believe how far I've come, whether it's meditation or any of these things. But find one thing. I challenge you to find one thing that you can do that kind of lights your fire a little bit, that you would be excited about, and you could do it every day. And if you even really are serious about it, put a alarm in your phone to remind you to do it, so that you build the habit, and eventually you don't need that anymore. So there's lots of things that you can do. So just start with one. You don't have to do everything all at once. All right. Kathy, any questions or comments?
It's interesting because I was thinking about sleep as soon as you said sleep. So you must have been doing the Vulcan mind meld there. But you're right. And then just trying to get enough sleep can be stressful, because you're so stressed out about it. You're trying to get the 8 hours in your schedule. But I just thought it was funny that both of us thought of it at the same time.
That's cool. Yeah. So sleep is a big one. And no matter how hard I try to end my day a little bit early, I feel like my clock just tells me what time to go to bed, for sure. But I'm sometimes for sleep, you can get by. So this is what I feel like: I can get by on 6 hours of sleep, no problem. I think that's kind of my normal. And usually I get a bit more on the weekend, but I can get by on that. But that doesn't mean that's the best for my health. So you have to remember that even though I can get by with it, I really should be aiming for at least 7 hours a night. 8 hours is better, because that's giving our body time to regenerate and get rid of the stress and toxins from the day before. And if we don't give the body enough time to do that, then it doesn't get everything done before it's time to wake up and get moving. And so this is like when you're cleaning your house. If you don't get everything cleaned up, you leave a little pile in the corner, that pile can start building up, and before you know it, you got a big problem, right? And you need
Yeah.
to bring in the dumpster. So just something to keep in mind. It's a great observation, Kathy. All right. So we have talked about how stress impacts our body, uh, how um, uh, how how we can use mindfulness to relieve the stress. And tomorrow, I am going to share some of what I have learned on a journey that I've been taking over the last year, on some of the things that I do for mindfulness that's really helped me to just kind of up my level of uh, understanding and my vibration, if you will, if you know all of that frequency, so that things that used to get me stressed out aren't stressing me out anymore. I have a better appreciation, and I'm living a more positive life. So I'm going to share some of what I've learned personally, what's really kind of helped me tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, as we are at the Deb Show. And I just want to remind you that tonight is I'm doing a webinar at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it is called Elevate Your Performance. It's about how you can use that number one skill for success, which is focus, to improve lots of things in your life. So that's 7 p.m. tonight. It's going to be on all of the channels that you're following. It's a webinar. It'll be about an hour and a half. So I'd love if you could join 7 p.m. tonight. Elevate your performance, talking about focus. All right. Bye for now.